Hey, and good Thursday morning, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majeski here, back with you here on the Weather Nerds YouTube channel here on the Weather Report. Hope you guys having a great day. Got you all ready to go here for today's update. Now, if you're coming up to this update after the fact, I know a lot of y'all do. If you can help our little channel out and give us a subscribe if you can, and leave me a comment if you got a question or anything down below. Always post that, and I'll be more than happy to answer any of your weather-related questions. But let's go ahead and dive into this edition. Kind of getting used to this new battle rhythm, trying to get into making this a regular live forecast event that you can check out live if you wish, or check in and after the fact. And again, the goal here is to keep you prepared and not scared, and not give you the social media hype. And God knows there's enough of it out there. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this today. Yesterday's high record, or the highest temperature yesterday across the United States yesterday was Death Valley, 109. That's difficult. And McKay, Idaho was 29. So I just wanted to throw those little tidbits out there for you. Kind of seeing what's going on out there for this morning as we're looking at our morning satellite imagery here. We got this little tropical disturbance here down here in the Gulf that's continuing to move off toward the west. Not really a big deal there. Got a few morning thunderstorms here across Missouri, searching back over toward Kansas. Pretty quiet up in the Northeast. Not looking bad for you folks up there from Boston down to New York. Atlanta looking pretty good as well. Not bad. West Coast looking high and dry on here as well. So not really too bad of a start. A little quieter than it has been the last few mornings. We've had days where we've had some active severe weather going on, but not this morning. Things looking pretty quiet out there to begin your morning. All right, let's go take a look at the morning surface map here. Again, we've got this storm system here in the middle of the country, high pressure here across the East Coast. I guess the big story here coming up really is going to be that we've been dealing with this hot weather here in the middle of the country. It's going to be kind of shifting to the southeast. You folks in the southeast have had a little bit of a break, especially at the Carolinas, thanks to a little wedge that came in there. That's going to change going into next week. It's looking brutally hot. And we're going to see some heat here as well, briefly, here across the Northeast. So before this frontal system kind of moves in this way, things are going to get kind of hot up there as well. Still staying pretty much dry out here on the West Coast here, not looking too bad there. But we are going to see some changes in the long-range projections. I'm going to show you guys that here in a second. But we're going to kind of shrink that heat dome down a little bit, and we're actually going to see, believe it or not, some below normal temperatures coming in here as we go into later, going into the first few days of August. So let's go take a look at some of this rain. That's got thunderstorms here across portions of Missouri here for this morning. Northern Missouri seeing some rain here back over toward Kansas, Manhattan, and Junction City. There to the west of St. Louis, looking at some rain there for this morning, but not looking too bad here. But again, the big weather story continues to be that big heat dome. And boy, we've been talking a lot about this. Obviously, you see all these heat advisories here in the middle of the country, where they've had some flooding issues there, where the rain's currently falling across Kansas and into Missouri. That's the green there. Notice we also have a few advisories here across the Northeast. Now, the good news is for you folks in the Northeast, you don't have to worry about that too much. I think it's going to be a quick hit and run for you guys. Things should be cooling back down there once the frontal system kind of makes its way off toward these. Things should begin to improve there. Should not see too much of a problem there. All right. So let's go ahead and we're going to talk about what we expect severe weather-wise. We'll look for the next 3 days. So we're talking about your Thursday, Friday, and Saturday going in for the next 3 days. And right now, not expecting anything that's going to be too big of a problem out there for you. Again, you're looking at level 1. So we're talking the marginal risk for severe weather. And you can kind of get an idea of where this is going here from this zone. Obviously, you see this here kind of wrapping around in here. This is where we're looking for severe weather, the foothills of the Rockies and that frontal system as it moves off toward the east. So we'll go ahead and track this. Really not going to break down the categories on that just yet. So let's look at your day 2. This shifts to the east coast as that frontal system arrives here. So we're talking areas up near Augusta, Maine, stretching back in down toward near Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. as well. A little pocket up here across the Dakotas as well, with a nice little disturbance kind of riding up there. A lot of general thunderstorm threat here across the country. You can see that. I mean, quite a bit there, right there, going in here for your Thursday, going into your Friday. This is day 2, yes, going into Friday. And then day 3, here's day 3 going into Saturday. Got a couple of pockets to watch out here across Illinois, Indiana, and then back out here to the Dakotas and coming out through Idaho. So we got a couple of pockets there to watch there. Let's go back to day 1. We'll take a quick look at the categorical breakdown. Shouldn't be too bad of a deal here. Tornado threat, not really. Not really big problem there. Wind threat, obviously, in the brown, that's 5% there. Again, where that marginal risk was going. So we're talking winds maybe up to 60 miles per hour for most locations there. And hail threat looks like predominantly just going to be out here in the foothills, coming out of the Rocky Mountains here from South Dakota, Wyoming, down to Colorado. So pretty par for the course there. Look at all these heat advisories in there. Just quite a bit. Excessive heat advisories. Just a real mess out there. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the Other part of the equation, again, is looking at where the excessive rainfall is going to be falling here over the next 3 days. You see the yellow area here with that frontal boundary, so isolated flooding. So we're talking about areas from Illinois, Indiana, stretching back toward Kansas and stuff. Again, we got the flash flood watches in there. You saw that. All right, that's your day one. We got a couple of areas here across the southeast. Got that tropical moisture down here along the Gulf Coast. That's a possibility there. A little bit out here on the West Coast, believe it or not, with a little weakness, a little disturbance coming in out there on the West Coast as well. Let's go to your day two, kind of holding still predominantly here in the middle of the country. So we're talking Kansas, Iowa, heading over toward Illinois, Indiana. That's a problem area there. And, of course, the frontal system's coming into the northeast. So we'll go watch that closely here from Maine, coming down to Ohio, maybe some localized gully washes there. And along the Gulf Coast, that'll continue there for your day two. So this is going into your Friday. And then finally going into day three, Saturday. Not looking bad. Again, the Gulf Coast states, a little pocket here across the Midwest, across North Dakota and in Minnesota, and a little bit of California and into Nevada. So it looks like day three not looking too bad. I think the precipitation kind of back off here just a little bit. All right, so that's looking at your severe weather breakdown. Let's look at the National Hurricane Center. We do have this little disturbed area out here. This thing's only showing about a 10% chance there of any kind of development. I think it's going to run out of real estate. This is the same little disturbance that did a little loop-to-loop across the southeast, so we don't have to worry about that too much. Again, kind of go back over here to this picture here. So we're talking about these little storms out here in the Gulf. That might enhance the rain there across the Louisiana Gulf Coast, back over toward the Florida Panhandle a little bit as that disturbance continues to ride off toward the east. Should not be a big deal. Should kind of bury itself into Texas and not be a problem after that. All right, now looking at the wider perspective, looking across the Atlantic here, one thing is still seen out there. You notice this brownish hue still sitting in here. Still got a lot of Saharan dust out there. This is dust. And again, Saharan dust is kind of a warm layer. It's definitely a kryptonite when it comes to tropical development. So still a bit of a problem out there for right now. Still seeing some decent waves out here, but nothing that's imminent development right now. And the intertropical convergence zone is still a little bit further south. It kind of works its way a little bit further north as we go deeper into the hurricane season. Remember, we've still got about 83% of the hurricane season activity still ahead of us. So once we get into August, things really start to ratchet up as we go into August and September. The peak of the hurricane season, of course, being around September the 10th. So we got plenty of time to see what goes on out there. We're still waiting for our D-named storm out there in the Atlantic. All right, let's go ahead and check out our models. We're looking at our short-term models here first. We're going to look here at the NAM 3 kilometer. I got that up today here, going out about 84 hours here. So again, we're watching a couple features. Obviously, we got this little disturbance down here along the Gulf Coast. It's continuing to move off toward the east. Here comes that frontal system coming through the northeast as we go into Friday. So, and little disturbances. But the big news is there's going to be a nice little heat dome. It's going to kind of get squished down. All that heat that's been up in the Midwest is going to be kind of shunted down to the southeast. So we're really going to see a nice little heat dome there develop going into early next week. So areas like Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville, we're talking some extreme heat. Probably see a lot of temperatures getting close to the century mark for multiple days. And for some parts of the southeast, that's going to be some of the hottest temperatures they've seen probably in a few years. It's been a hot minute since we've had those kind of temperatures, for example, in the Atlanta metro area for any sustained period of time. So we'll be watching that pretty closely. The West Coast continues to stay dry. Not seeing much of a problem out here on the West Coast. There's some weakness out there that's coming on in there, but really not looking bad. Here's a little disturbance coming out here going into your Saturday, going up toward portions of Wisconsin as we go through. So again, let me slow this down once again for you here. I'm going to slow that down. So we'll pause that there for you. So again, you kind of see that going into your Thursday evening, you get the storms cutting across Michigan, back over toward Kansas. And that'll kind of move into the northeast as we go into your Friday. So Friday's going to be about unsettled. Today's going to be a warm one. But again, with this frontal system, with that moving on in there, that should settle those temperatures back down there across the northeast. So a little hot day ahead, but that'll settle coming on. And then there's even a colder shot, which I'll show you down here going, it looks like around the 1st and 2nd of August coming on down. So there's the frontal system, kind of settles on here to the south. Got another complex of storms going into your Friday night, going in there. And that'll kind of move up into Iowa and into Wisconsin going into Saturday morning, all right? All right, so let's go ahead and look at the temperatures here. Again, we're going to be beating back the heat in the middle of the country. So areas here that have been dealing with extreme heat up here across the Midwest, again, this is going to be shunted off to the south here as we're going to see a cool trend coming in here across the north. I'm going to start off with this one, and then I'm going to show you the European model here to show you what I'm talking about here as far as the beat down of those temperatures. So areas, the big thing is going to be, we had a little bit of a wedge coming across the southeast, and things are really going to warm up there across the mid-Atlantic and the southeast here as that heat kind of gets pushed a little bit further south. Like here's up to Chicago, they're going to back those temperatures off. New England will also, although going to be a little bit warm today, will back those temperatures off as well, thanks to a little cool shot that's kind of moving in across the Great Lakes behind that little frontal system. That's the weaker one. We got another one that's going to come down toward the end of next week, and that one will be a little more pronounced, that's for sure. All right, I'm going to come back to temperatures here in a second. Let's first go back over here to the 500 millibar level. We're kind of watching where the high pressure, low pressures are kind of setting up here. And what I'm seeing here pretty much is a pattern where we're going to kind of get the ridging kind of go waffling kind of back and forth here. So you got the ridging here, the heat here through the weekend going on. And let me pause this for a second. I did not turn my thing. I did this yesterday. You'd think I would remember to keep doing it, but keep turning my time stamp there off a little bit. But you see this little shot here coming in across the New England states going into around the 1st or 2nd. Then it warms back up. Look at this big ridge here as we go deeper into the month, going into that first week in August. So we got the heat dome here for this weekend. Definitely going to be setting up here across a big part of the country. And then you got that cold front coming in, going into the 1st and 2nd. What I think that's going to mean here, like for you folks here along the East Coast, we're going to probably have another cooler wedge coming here down into the southeast once again, going into the 1st or 2nd. So this will be a little bit of relief here with that big trough coming down here. But for the most of next week, I mean, look at there. That's Sunday. That's a pretty good dome there. You got this weakness here on the West Coast. You see that, but pretty good high pressure ridge there in the middle of the country. This will kind of sit there, and then it's still holding on, but we're bringing in a cold front. This will bring in a cold front. You see this ridging out here toward the west once again. It'll be hot and dry across the Rockies once again. The middle of the country will start to heat up once again, but the Northeast you'll cool down here going into the 1st and 2nd. That'll be a pretty good cool shot, I think, across New England. And that'll work its way down into the Carolinas, I think. We'll have another, basically, where we get a high pressure ridge that'll be kind of settling into here, and it'll kind of funnel down, just like this last one a little bit, so a little bit of a break. But for most of next week, it'll be pretty hot there across the southeast. All right, and then that kind of goes on. Then the ridge kind of breaks down there briefly, going into the 2nd, then it reestablishes itself once again. Looks like another little cold shot coming in there, another big ridge out here in the west. So again, that seems to be a forecast model trend when you're looking long range. That seems to be continue to be the case there. All right, so let's go ahead and look here at the big picture here as we look for the next 7 days. This is your European model here, showing that frontal system kind of clearing off the East Coast, and then another one coming on in here as we go toward to Wednesday. Now, the good news for you folks here across the southeast, looks like by Wednesday, Thursday time period, we'll go ahead and firing up some more thunderstorms down here across the southeast. That should help with some of that oppressive heat. But in the meantime, going into this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, across the southeast, I don't think you're going to see much in the way of activity. It'll be very limited out there as that heat dome really kind of makes its presence felt here. All right, I'm going to slow this down once again. So, again, here comes that frontal system Thursday, settling in on Friday into New England. You see it there set up right there. This kind of settles on down to the south, but it's not going anywhere. It can't really get a big push. So this is just going in here. It's kind of stalling out, and then we'll kind of wait for that next piece of energy to kind of pull on out of the Rockies here as we go toward early next week. So, again, this kind of stays unsettled. There's that next little disturbance kind of moving across the high plains. That'll be severe weather, obviously, on Sunday afternoon there across Minnesota probably. And this metal settles on down to the southeast. And then as we go beyond this period, and let me go ahead and take this out a little bit. Let me take this out here. As I say, take you out here beyond the rest of this model here. So hold on one second. There we go. And then we see a nice little drop off. I'm seeing these heights really crash going into the 1st or 2nd. So you got a nice little high pressure ridge kind of coming in the northeast. Here comes that frontal system right here. Again, this will probably bring in a little bit of a backdoor cold front into the southeast as we go toward the 2nd. So I'm looking a little bit beyond the 7-day, but that's kind of the forecast trend going into that zone. All right, now let's go ahead. Now I want to go ahead and talk about the short-term temperatures once again for the next 3 days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift over here over to the Pibbles level. Here we go. Go over here. We're going to talk about those feel-like temperatures. You can see this frontal boundary shows up very nicely. You see a lot of 80s up in here, and you see it's still showing 102, for example, up in Chicago. So still very hot there. 106 near St. Louis, 108 near Memphis. So these are for today. So those feel-like temperatures are still very oppressive. But look what happens as I go over a day. Oh, look at this. We go over to 24 hours. It backs off to 86, 77 in Chicago. So we're gonna back that down a little bit here. It's still pretty warm there across the East Coast. Seeing some lower 90s up into DC. I look 105 into New York City. That's for tomorrow. So that looks very brutal. But as we go into day 3, that backs into 80s again. So we'll beat this temperatures back here in New England here over the next 3 days. But the southeast, let's look at it here in the southeast. areas that have been dealing with a pretty nice last couple days into North Carolina, 108, 107 down near Columbia. So it's going to get really, really hot. 98 area, Metro Atlanta, a lot of hundreds here across the Deep South. So that's going to continue on right into next week. And those feel-like temperatures will be very oppressive and very hot, especially going into Monday and Tuesday across the Deep South. And the Northeast, obviously, with that will also heat up as well. So a big part of the country, this big heat dome going to set up into place until that cold front comes in on the second time period coming into the Northeast, and at least provide a little bit of respite for the Great Lakes and areas there into the New England and parts of the Southeast. That's the way it's currently looking like for right now. Now, as far as rainfall totals are concerned, let me go back over to this one here. Again, you can see where the storm threat's going to be. Well, obviously, we got the heavy rains that are continuing here across portions of Kansas and into Missouri. So we're still dealing with some pretty impressive rains here, upwards of 4 inches, 3 inches, 3.5 inches, 3.5 inches. So again, that's where those flash flood watches are currently sitting. Of course, the Gulf Coast, dealing with that little tropical disturbance, they're going to see a little bit of enhancement of their rains as well. You kind of see there across the Gulf Coast here from Apalachicola heading over toward New Orleans, some pretty good rains up into that zone. Most of the Southeast really not looking too bad. And then eventually these rains will kind of make their way into the Northeast. So these are your rain totals here for the next 7 days overall. And of course, out here on the West Coast, let me turn that off real quick. There we go. There's some little bit of rains out there, a little bit as that little energy comes in over this weekend, but really not going to amount to much. Still some monsoonal moisture up here across areas of Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, still showing some of the monsoon flow out there on the West Coast. All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up looking at your climate outlook here. Again, there's some changes here. Again, highlighting what we've been talking about. Again, looking at the cooler tendency. So this is going out for later this week. I'm going to get my interactive mode open here. Sorry about that. Got to open this thing up to be able to tell you all this. All right, so let's go forward here. Again, we're talking about the 29th through the 2nd. So you can clearly see here the cooler temperatures across New England coming across the Great Lakes here. Again, that's an initial cool shot, but it's going to be bloody hot down here in the south. And this is going to be very, very hot going in from the 29th before that front kind of makes its way down going into the 1st and 2nd, okay, the way it's timing right now. And then notice as we go deeper into the month, going in here from the 31st through the 6th, that's a big difference. Look at that. Wow, way below normal there. And this will kind of, again, we should beat back the heat here in the southeast as well. And you kind of see, kind of find what I think is going to happen if the long-range models are projected. I think the heat will start to build once again here in the middle of the country beyond the 2-week period. So we'll get a little bit of a break in the northeast and then toward the areas of the mid-Atlantic area and in the Midwest. But then we'll see the heat kind of build back there in the middle of the country. So anyway, that is y'all's weather update for today. I kind of like this. I think I can get used to doing this. I like this. I prefer recording, or I prefer doing this live. It's just I can be more myself, a little more casual conversation with you guys. Again, if you guys got any weather-related questions, so please, as always, post them down below. Share this with your family and friends. Again, the motto here on this channel is to stay prepared and not scared, because I just think there's so much saturation out there in the social media world, whether it be on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, that tends to go over the top. That's just not my style. And my goal here is to keep you safe and keep you prepared and not scare the crap out of you. And those who've been watching this channel for a long time know that's what I try to do here. So hopefully this new format will catch on a little bit, and hopefully we'll attract some more people here. This now affords me some time to do some more production stuff. I've got to work on the tropical stuff I want to do. For example, I want to put where the active warnings and watches are up there. That's where my tropical information is going to do. I want to get a new banner that'll cover that breaking news banner when we're in tropical storm coverage, things like that. So we're getting there slowly but surely. I appreciate you guys checking us out today. All right, we'll see y'all next time. We'll see you tomorrow. You guys have a great and safe day, and be good out there and stay hydrated.